underdogs and challenger whatever, whether it be sports teams or artists or businesses or whatever. Just kind of little companies that sneak up out of nowhere and kind of just change the game and all of a sudden go from being very small to being very prominent and very distinct. So that's always kind of been a passion of mine. And I worked on this thing for about 5 years. I work with a lot of smaller companies, companies like Purell and Ricola, little kind of consumer packaged good companies.
Yeah.
But companies that really have a very unique culture, very unique brand, and companies that are very, very serious about what they do. So that was kind of the driver for this thing. And it's a summary of a lot of ideas, a lot of stories, and a lot of personalities that I think anybody can really relate to, whether you run a little company or whether you're thinking about being an artist or whether you run a team or you're a coach or whatever you do. It's that idea that you're smaller, but you're trying to sneak up on other people and you're trying to do it your way.
Dan Mack joins us today. Dark Horse, how challenger companies rise to prominence. He's our first guest today here on Radio Xenu, here on TalkRadioX.com, and, of course, today on Spreecast. Now, it sounds like Dark Horse is more than just another business book.
Yeah, no, I think it really is. I mean, there's a lot in here about small little brands or small little businesses, but I think it's much, much more than that. And I think the reason I think it's more is, you know, most of us, if we look in the mirror, we're probably dark horses, right? I mean, we're not, very few people have a lot of money, very few people have tons and tons of talent. So, you know, most of us are dark horses. And I think the reason why this is kind of a cool idea that really has inspired me over the last 5 or 6 years is because most of us can look in the mirror and really be inspired by a lot of really unique companies who've done interesting stuff and have really beaten the odds. You know, companies like Method Soap, or companies like Tom's Shoes. That's the company that, you know, you buy one and they give one away to children in extreme poverty. Or like Carmex Lip Balm. These are like little companies that most people don't know much about, but they're really special at what they do, and they can really give us a lot of lessons on, you know, how each of us can be really distinct in what we're doing also.
Dan Mack joins us today. He's got a great book, Dark Horse, How Challenger Companies Rise to Prominence. Why did you feel inspired to put this book together, my man?
You know, I think it kind of goes back to my own story. You know,
you look like
I spend a lot of time now doing strategy and helping companies think through how they introduce new products and how their little company can be more successful in a bigger marketplace. But I think part of my own story was, you know, I mean, I never got great grades in college.
I love it.
I struggled, like most people, with public speaking. I struggled with, you know, with stuttering when I was young. I really felt like a dark horse myself, kind of in most things I did. So that's always been something that connected to me. And then over the last 5 or 6, 7 years with my work, and I'm always working, again, with kind of unique little companies, unique leaders who were smaller, I kept seeing all of these patterns as I was doing this research, and there was a set of traits that the ones that broke through seemingly had. And so I think on one level, I thought, wow, I got to get this down on paper because this really is interesting, and these guys really do certain things the same way, even though they're very, very different, or maybe they think the same way, their philosophies are kind of very similar. So it was kind of a labor of love for me, and I think in some ways it was just something that I think, again, like I said, I'm always very intrigued with myself personally.
We've got Dan Mack with us today, Dark Horse, How Challenger Companies Rise to Prominence. What are some of the most unique things of winning Dark Horse companies and leaders? Tell us about some of these.
Well, I think, you know, there were probably 10 traits. There's probably about 20 traits that hit me, but the 10 that really, really hit me the most was, you know, people who do things at a really high level and really are very gifted at it. It's very, very personal to them. You know, I always laugh when people say things are, you know, you're taking things too personal. And I think, you know, man, if you're not taking it personal, you're probably in the wrong game, right?
Oh, very much so.
I think there's something about it's very personal to them, and what they're doing, probably very similar, James, to what you're doing. It's an extension.
I don't know. I don't know if you can compare me to anything of the people that you're writing about in your book. My God, if you can see what's going on here in this studio, it's a circus. But go ahead, Dan. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Maybe down deep you're meant to be a ringmaster. There it is.
Maybe. Dan Mack with us today. Dark Horse, how challenger companies rise to prominence. And before we let you go, my friend, I got two more questions for you. One, what one company in the book did you really find interesting that inspired you?
I think a company I have loved for a lot of years. I watched these guys. When I used to be involved with Purell Instant Hand Sanitizer, helping to launch that little item, I always used to watch this other company, and this company was Method Soap. And the reason why I think they're kind of a cool little company, I mean, they're competing against some of the biggest soap companies in the world. And these are really big organizations with lots of resources. But this little company out of Northern California started kind of creating a business, and their whole mission was, they said, you know what, we're kind of purposefully weird. And our mission is to get rid of the world, anything in the world that's dirty, whether it be dirty businesses or dirty business practices or, you know, badly designed products. And, you know, part of their mission is they go out into the ocean now and they go find all of the old plastic that's floating around in the Atlantic Ocean. They bring that back and they retool it and recycle it, and that's the bottles that they're using for their own soap products now. So it's just kind of a really good example that they're a company that they're much more than making soap. They're about kind of changing the world in their own way, and I just find that's something we can all kind of relate to on some level. You know, it's their own purpose, and they've really tapped into it.
Well, Dan, before we let you go, one final question for you. How do we connect with you online?
You know, you can check me out on Twitter if you want, Daniel P. Mack. At Twitter or MackElevationForum.com.
Cool stuff. Well, Dan, thanks for being with us. Looking forward to chatting.